Today we count down 30 Japanese kitchen rules Americans break that waste your money, including the thing Japanese home cooks do to a block of tofu that most Americans would call ruining it, and a supply list under $15. Let's get into it. Number 30. Take your bread out of the refrigerator. The crust goes leathery. The crumb goes dry. The loaf tastes 3 days older than it is, and the fridge you use to protect it is why. Slice the loaf the day you buy it, wrap it tight, and freeze it, then toast it straight from frozen. Bread stales through starch retrogradation, starch molecules recrystallizing and squeezing water out of the crumb, and that runs fastest at right around 40 degrees. That is your refrigerator. Japanese households freeze bread by the slice, which is why you will rarely find a stale loaf in one. Number 29, stand your greens up in water. Spinach goes limp in 2 days. Scallions turn to slime. Asparagus bends like it gave up. You paid full price, and you bin half of it on Sunday. Trim a 1/4 inch off the bottoms, stand the bunch in an inch of cold water, cover the tops loosely with a bag, and refrigerate. A cut stem seals itself within hours and stops drawing water, so the cells lose turgor pressure, the internal water pressure that makes a vegetable stand up straight. Japanese home cooks store anything green upright, which routinely doubles its life. Number 28. Salt the vegetables that are already too far gone. That half cabbage in the drawer is not garbage yet. It is just past the point where anyone wants it raw. Slice it thin, toss with 2 teaspoons of salt per pound, wait 10 minutes, then squeeze the water out and eat it as a quick pickle. Salt pulls water across the cell membrane by osmosis, so the cell collapses, but the cell wall is cellulose and pectin and stays intact, which is why the result is crunchy instead of limp. This is how Japanese households turn a tired cabbage into another week of food, and it is what my grandma Yuki did in a chipped blue bowl, leaning on it with the heel of her hand until water ran out of a vegetable I had written off. Number 27. Wrap produce in paper and keep the fruit away from it. Most refrigerator rot is not age. It is condensation and chemistry. Wrap mushrooms, greens, and cucumbers in paper towel before bagging them, and store apples, bananas, and tomatoes on the opposite side of the fridge. Those fruits emit ethylene, a gaseous plant hormone that tells nearby produce to ripen, and the paper absorbs the surface moisture mold needs to start. Japanese grocery habits assume this, which is why produce comes home wrapped and gets stored that way. And since we are on things already in your kitchen, 3 more. Number 26. Ignore the date on the egg carton and test them instead. Americans bin good eggs on the authority of a number that is a sell-by suggestion, not a safety line. Drop the egg in cold water. Flat on the bottom is fresh. Standing on end is older but fine cooked through, and only a floater goes in the trash. An eggshell is porous, so moisture and carbon dioxide escape over weeks and the air cell grows, which is what the float measures. Japanese kitchens run this test constantly, which is why raw egg over rice is normal there and terrifying here. Number 25. Freeze your ginger whole and never peel it again. Ginger costs almost nothing, and you still lose most of it because you use a tablespoon and the rest shrivels into a stone in the back of the drawer. Put the whole unpeeled root in a freezer bag and grate it frozen, skin and all, straight into the pan. Freezing forms ice crystals inside the fibrous cells and ruptures them, so a frozen root gives up pulp on a grater instead of the stringy threads you have to pick out. This is standard in Japanese home kitchens and the easiest one on this list. Number 24. Put leftover rice in the freezer, not the refrigerator. Refrigerated rice comes back hard, chalky, and separated no matter what. Portion it while still steaming. Wrap each serving flat and tight, freeze immediately, and microwave from frozen for 2 minutes. Wrapping it hot traps the steam as ice before moisture can migrate out, and it skips the fridge temperature range where rice starch recrystallizes fastest. Japanese households freeze rice by default, and reheated properly, it is genuinely indistinguishable from fresh. That is storage. Now, the part of the bill that actually hurts, the meat and fish counter, including one cut, most stores will hand you for nearly nothing. That is number 21. Number 23, stop freezing meat in the lump it came in. A thick supermarket package freezes slowly from the outside in, and a week later you thaw it and pour pink liquid down the drain. That puddle is what you paid for. Divide it into meal-sized portions, press each flat to 3/4 of an inch in the bag, and freeze on a metal tray so it chills fast from both sides. Fast freezing makes many small ice crystals instead of a few large ones, and small crystals puncture far fewer cell walls, so the meat holds its own moisture on the way back out. Number 22, salt, cheap frozen fish. 20 minutes before it hits the pan. Frozen fish is a third the price of the fresh counter, and most people avoid it over the smell. Salt both sides lightly, rest it on a rack 20 minutes, then pat it completely dry. The salt draws surface moisture out by osmosis, and that moisture carries trimethylamine, the water-soluble compound responsible for the fishy smell, while the surface proteins firm up so the fillet sears instead of steams. This is the first step in any Japanese kitchen for fish going under a broiler. Number 21, buy the collar and take the bones home. American fish counters treat collars, heads, and frames as waste and price them accordingly, so the best eating part of the fish sits there for $2 a pound. Ask for kama, the collar behind the gill, salt it, and broil it 8 minutes, and have them bag the frame for a 20-minute stock. Those cuts are dense in collagen, which converts to gelatin under moist heat, and gelatin gives you rich meat and a broth with real body instead of flavored water. Japanese fish markets sell collars as a premium item. Number 20, put koji on the cheap tough cuts instead of a marinade. Acidic marinades do almost nothing to a cheap cut. They flavor the outer 1/8 of an inch and you are still chewing. Rub 2 tablespoons of shio koji per pound of pork shoulder, chuck, or chicken thigh, bag it overnight, then wipe it off before cooking. Koji is rice inoculated with Aspergillus oryzae, and the mold produces proteases, enzymes that cut long muscle proteins into short chains and free amino acids so the meat tenderizes and gains savory depth in one step. This is how Japanese cooking makes a cheap cut taste expensive, and it is what my grandma Yuki kept in a jar by the stove and refused to explain. Her best one is number 1, so hang on. Number 19, velvet. Your thin-sliced meat before it goes in the pan. Cheap stir-fry beef seizes into gray rubber the second it hits heat. Toss 1 pound of thinly sliced meat with a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, leave it 20 minutes, and cook it hot and fast. The baking soda raises the pH at the surface, and at higher pH, the proteins cannot bond as tightly as they contract, so they are physically unable to squeeze out their own moisture. This is how restaurants get that velvety texture from the cut you have been ruining at home. Number 18, treat chicken skin as a bottle of oil you already paid for. You trim it, you bin it, and then you buy a bottle of cooking oil. Lay the skin in a cold, dry skillet over low heat for 15 minutes, pour the clear fat into a jar, and put the crisped bits on rice with salt. Low, slow heat separates fat from water and connective tissue without burning it, and fat is the solvent that dissolves fat-soluble aromatics, which is why anything fried in it tastes deeper. Japanese yakitori shops build menu items out of this. Number 17, sharpen the knife you have instead of blaming the vegetables. Most American kitchens run knives that have not been sharpened in years, and the cost shows up as produce you throw away. Get a 1,000 and 3,000 grit whetstone for around $30 and give each knife 10 minutes once a month. A dull edge crushes plant cells rather than parting them, spilling polyphenol oxidase, the enzyme that browns cut surfaces, so crushed produce degrades faster in the fridge. Japanese home cooks sharpen their own knives the way you would air up a tire. That is the protein aisle. Now, the pantry, where the waste is invisible, including a liquid Americans pour down the drain, worth more than what it came out of. That is number 13. Number 16, never let miso boil. You buy a good tub of miso, let it bubble in the pot, and you have paid premium prices for salty, cloudy water. Take the pot fully off the heat, whisk the miso into a ladle of hot broth in a separate bowl until smooth, then stir it back in and serve. Miso's aroma comes from volatile compounds, meaning they evaporate readily, and boiling drives them off first while the suspended solids break and sink. Every Japanese cook learns this before anything else about soup. Number 15. Refrigerate soy sauce the day you open it. The bottle in your cupboard is 6 months old and it is not the product you bought. Buy the smaller bottle, keep it in the fridge door, and use it within a month of opening. Soy sauce degrades by oxidation on contact with air, which darkens the color and flattens the bright aromatic notes, leaving something that tastes mostly of salt. Japanese brands sell sealed pouch bottles specifically because oxidation is understood there as the whole problem. Number 14, get 3 cups of tea from 1 scoop of leaves. Americans use a tea bag once and bin it, then complain that good loose leaf is expensive. Steep the first cup at around 160 degrees for 1 minute, then steep the same leaves again hotter and shorter, then a third time near boiling. Extraction is temperature selective, so the sweet amino acids come out fast at low heat, while catechins and caffeine need more energy, which means the leaf is nowhere near spent after 1 pass. Japanese sencha is designed around exactly this, and the second steep is often the best one. Number 13, save the shiitake soaking water. This is the most valuable thing that goes down American drains. Soak dried shiitake in cold water in the fridge overnight, lift the mushrooms out, and strain the liquid through paper towel to catch grit. Drying and rehydrating activates enzymes that generate guanylate, one of the most powerful umami compounds known, and most of it ends up dissolved in the water rather than in the mushroom. Japanese home cooks treat that liquid as a stock in its own right, and since we are on things you are buying pre-processed for no reason, 2 more. Number 12, buy sesame whole and grind it yourself. Pre-ground sesame smells like nothing, which is why you keep adding more and it never tastes like anything. Buy whole seeds, toast 2 tablespoons in a dry pan for 2 minutes until they pop, and grind them right before you use them. The intact seed coat protects the oil inside from oxygen, and once ground, that oil oxidizes and goes rancid within weeks, which is what happened to the jar in your cupboard. This is why every Japanese kitchen owns a suribachi, the ridged grinding bowl, and my grandma Yuki's kitchen smelled like toasted sesame at 6 in the morning in a way I did not appreciate for 20 years. Number 11. Stop throwing out frying oil after 1 use. You have been told used oil is spent and dangerous. It is neither. It is good for 4 or 5 rounds, and a quart of oil is real money. Cool it to warm, strain it through a fine mesh sieve into a sealed jar, and store it dark and cool. Food particles carbonize and accelerate the breakdown of the oil around them, and oil itself dies by oxidation and polymerization, which need light, heat, and air. Japanese households have kept a dedicated oil pot for generations. Number 10. Fry hotter, and you will use less oil, not more. Everyone believes hotter oil means greasier food. It is backwards. Keep a thermometer in the pot, hold it at 350 degrees, and fry small batches so the temperature never crashes. Water inside the food flashes to steam and rushes outward, and that pressure is what physically keeps oil out. So food dropped into cool oil has nothing defending it and soaks it up. This is why Japanese tempura is famously light, and it leaves more oil in the pot. Number 9, dry the vegetables you cannot finish in time. If you cannot eat it and you cannot freeze it, you can still dry it. Slice daikon, carrot, or mushrooms. 1/4 of an inch thick, lay them on a rack somewhere sunny and breezy for 2 dry days and bring them in overnight. Water leaves, which concentrates the sugars and amino acids already there, and enzyme activity during slow drying builds new umami compounds the fresh vegetable never had. Kiriboshi daikon is a staple of Japanese home cooking built on exactly this, that is buying and keeping. The last 8 are the restaurant-level ones, where technique replaces things you pay for. Number 8, turn the peels into the side dish. You are buying a vegetable using 60% of it and composting the rest. Julienne carrot peels, burdock, or broccoli stems as thin as you can, then stir-fry in a teaspoon of oil with a tablespoon each of soy sauce and mirin for 4 minutes. Those parts are firm because they are dense in pectin-rich cell walls, and thin cuts plus fast heat break that pectin down, so texture stops being the problem. Kinpira is one of the most common dishes in Japanese home cooking. Number 7, keep a scrap bag in the freezer. Onion skins, carrot tops, mushroom stems, leek greens, corn cobs. Put them in 1-gallon bag as you cook, and when it is full, simmer the contents in water for 1 hour and strain. Sugars, glutamates, and pigments are water-soluble, so they leave the scraps and enter the water, and the trimmings hold a surprising amount. Japanese kitchens are built on the idea that the discard is an ingredient, and this deletes a line item from your grocery list permanently. Number 6, stop heating an entire oven to cook one small thing. A full-size oven preheats 15 minutes, then holds a large volume of air and heavy steel at temperature so you can bake 4 pieces of chicken. Use a toaster oven, a covered skillet, or a lidded donabe for anything that fits, and save the big oven for full trays. You are paying to heat volume and mass, not food, and a small appliance heats a fraction of both at roughly half the power draw. Japanese homes often have no full-size oven at all. Number 5, turn the heat off and walk away from your simmered dishes. You stand over the pot for 40 minutes and the vegetables still taste like broth outside and nothing inside. Simmer your nimono gently for 15 minutes, shut the burner off completely, and leave the pot alone for an hour before reheating to serve. While it boils, water moves outward as steam, fighting the seasoning trying to move in. And as the pot cools, that outward flow stops and diffusion carries the broth deep into the vegetable. Flavor goes in on the way down, not on the way up, and this is the principle underneath nearly every simmered dish in Japan. Number 4, use a drop lid and cut your braising liquid in half. Standard braising drowns the food in stock you bought or spent an afternoon making, and half gets poured off. Cut a circle of parchment slightly smaller than your pot, or use a small plate, and rest it directly on the surface of the food. The drop lid holds the ingredients under a shallow layer of liquid and continuously circulates the reducing broth back over the top, so you get even seasoning with half the liquid and less time on the burner. An otoshibuta is standard in Japanese kitchens, and parchment does it free. Number 3, cook 2 dishes on one burner. You have 4 pots going, 3 burners lit, and a gas bill that reflects it. Set a steamer basket or a heat-proof plate over your rice pot for the last 10 minutes and steam fish, greens, or dumplings in the rising steam. Steam carries an enormous amount of latent heat that is currently escaping your kitchen and doing nothing, and you have already paid for every bit of it. Japanese home kitchens frequently have only 2 burners, which is exactly why this technique exists. Number 2, learn the 2 ingredients that end store-bought stock forever. A carton of stock is $3, tastes mostly of salt, and you go through it constantly. Steep a 4-inch piece of kombu in 4 cups of water held at about 150 degrees for 20 minutes. Pull the kombu, take the pot off the heat, add a large handful of katsuobushi, wait 2 minutes, and strain. Kombu delivers glutamate and bonito flakes deliver inosinate, and those two are synergistic, meaning the combination registers as several times more savory than either alone, rather than simply adding up. Then simmer the used solids again for a lighter stock, and chop what is left with soy and mirin into tsukudani. 3 uses, 10 minutes, about $1. And here we are at number 1, the strangest thing on this list and the one that saves the most money. Number 1. Freeze your tofu on purpose. Everyone who watches you do it will tell you that you have ruined it because frozen tofu thaws out yellowish, dense, and full of holes. Freeze a block of firm tofu in its package overnight, thaw it in the morning, press the water out with your palms, and tear it into rough chunks instead of cutting them. Ice crystals grow inside and shove the protein network aside as they expand, and what is left is a sponge with enormous internal surface area, so it drinks braising liquid the way a solid block never could and holds together like meat. This is koridofu, and it is how a $2 block of tofu soaks up a braise and turns half a pound of ground pork into dinner for 4. I told my grandma Yuki she had wrecked good tofu. I have since apologized. There you have it. 30 Japanese kitchen rules Americans break every day, and everyone is money in the trash. Pick 3 or 4 this week. Move the bread to the freezer, stand your greens in water, save the shiitake water, and freeze a block of tofu. Your grocery bill drops and your food gets better at the same time. A few of these came from my grandma Yuki, who never explained a single one of them, and who would be quietly pleased they are in your kitchen now. Drop a comment and tell me the one thing your grandmother did that you never understood until later. And subscribe if you want more deep dive cooking content, because I have a lot more coming.